believe we're halfway through the month already.
I know.
You here alone tonight, Pastor Ryans? Are you with your wife or are you here alone? All right. The Tuesday, February 16, 2021 meeting of the Eden Prairie City Council is now called to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to our second meeting of the Eden Prairie City Council in February. We're hoping at some point to get beyond COVID and have this back to normal and people back in our chambers. We do have a few people tonight in our chambers, socially distanced. Appreciate you all being here and anyone listening from home. When we do get a little bit more back to normal, we'll have more of a regular cadence of open podium, which is a time when we offer an opportunity for Eden Prairie residents to address the City Council on issues related to Eden Prairie City government prior to each council meeting, which are typically held the first and third Tuesday of each month. These open podium times are held from 6:30 to 6:55 here in the council chamber. If you wish to address the council at open podium, please contact the city manager's office at 952-949-8412 by noon of the meeting date with your name, phone number, and subject matter. And if time permits, after scheduled speakers are finished, the mayor will open the floor to unscheduled speakers. Open podium is not recorded or televised. If you have any questions about open podium, please do contact the city manager's office. Tonight we do have one proclamation, and it's on Black History Month, and I'm really pleased to be able to read this tonight and to issue this proclamation. Many of you know that I'm a retired elementary school teacher for 33 years here in Eden Prairie, and there wasn't a February that I didn't teach 3rd, 5th, and 6th graders Black History Month. And so it's with great meaning for me personally that I will read this proclamation this evening. Whereas the City of Eden Prairie recognizes and honors the contributions of all members of our communities and is committed to diversity, equity, inclusion, and mutual respect as a fundamental aspect of a healthy, thriving community. And whereas the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, the ASALH, first sponsored a week to recognize African American history back in 1926, the year my father was born, which gradually evolved into a full month of reflection after the Civil Rights Movement until it was officially recognized as Black History Month by President Gerald Ford in 1976. And whereas the month of February was selected as Black History Month because it marks the birth of Frederick Douglass, W.E.B. Du Bois, Langston Hughes, and Abraham Lincoln, leaders whose actions greatly impacted the lives of the American Black population. And whereas the contributions of Black Americans made and continue to make our nation's economic strength, as well as to our history, music, arts, national defense, written words, discoveries, and inventions, those contributions are overlooked. And whereas despite all of the progress, the legacy of slavery and segregation still persists in our nation in the forms of mass incarceration, the school-to-prison pipeline, racial profiling, educational inequalities, housing and employment discrimination, racism, and bias. And whereas in 2021, Black History Month theme centers on the Black family, representation, identity, and diversity, and the rich tapestry of images and complexities for exploring the African American past and present. And whereas the City of Eden Prairie invites all members of the Eden Prairie community to renew their commitment to ensuring racial equality, understanding, and justice, and to participate in activities designed to advance the cause of freedom and equality for all. Now, therefore, this Eden Prairie City Council does hereby proclaim February 2021 as Black History Month here in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, and encourages all citizens to observe this month and honor the history made by Black Americans. Signed by Ronald A. Case, Mayor. Council, anything to add to that? I think that's a very well-written proclamation by our city staff. I believe Joyce probably, but thank you. Anyone have anything else to share? Okay.
Great writing.
All right, moving on then. City Manager Getchell, prop food shelf collection.
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. This would be the second year that the city partnered with Prop on a dollar drive. And normally, I think we did this last year, and COVID affects it this year, that we normally would have Prop here and they'd be accepting one of those big checks on our behalf. But throughout the month of November, our liquor stores partnered with Prop and invited customers to donate to the food shelf. And so as I mentioned, we held a dollar drive again for the second year, and we invited customers to contribute $1 each time they visited. And so through the generosity of the patrons of Eden Prairie Liquor, we were able to raise $10,587.90 for the food shelf. I can't remember the exact number last year, but I believe it was 5 figures as well. So, I mean, I think we're onto something, a really good program here, for the second year in a row. And even in this COVID environment, we were able to raise, again, over $10,000 for the prop food shelf. So I know if they were here, as they were last year, I know that they would also thank the patrons of Eden Prairie Liquor, and we think it's a great partnership and a program that we've begun. We don't need to take any action at all. We're not accepting a donation. The residents raise money through the liquor stores that are then donated to Prop. But I wanted to make sure to share that at this meeting.
Nice. Earlier tonight, and I will share more about this later, earlier this evening at our workshop, we had individual council members share goals and passions they have for this coming year. And several of the council members sitting up here mentioned, maybe all of us in one way or another, mentioned nonprofits and mentioned hunger, transportation issues, housing issues. And it's great then to be partnering with one of our really stellar nonprofits in Prop. We have others as in Prop Shop and Meals on Wheels, and just great resources here in the city. So this is wonderful the city could be part of this. So let's move on to the agenda. I just have one item I want to make sure to add, and that's under council member reports. I will report on a summary of some of the comments that you all shared downstairs about your goals for the year, and you can add to that at that time. Is there anything else that any of you, and Councilmember Nelson, I'll try to keep an eye on you as well. Is there anything else that you would like to add to the agenda this evening? Okay, is there a motion to approve with my addition the agenda before us this evening?
I move to approve the agenda with the addition of the line item.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Freiberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Narayan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson, Councilmember Toomey,
Aye.
Mayor Case.
Aye. All right, for the minutes, we had minutes from our last meeting in the workshop held February 2nd and also the council meeting. Are there any items that, or questions about anything in those minutes that you'd like to have corrected or changed? If not, could I have a motion to receive, accept both of those minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the city council and workshop minutes from February 2nd to 2021.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call.
Councilmember Freiberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Narayan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson, Councilmember Toomey,
Aye.
Mayor Case.
Aye. Just from a technology point here, I can't see Councilmember Nelson. Is there a way I can have her up on the screen or
Yeah,
something
I'll
possible?
check on that. Yeah.
Okay, I believe it was, I saw her in years past, but maybe not, or in weeks past. Can't do it?
Working on it?
Okay,
Okay, working on it.
wonderful. Councilmember Nelson, we can't,
Oh,
ooh,
there she
there we
is.
can really see you. But prior to that, we couldn't see you. And so if we're not able to see you and you wish to speak, make noise. Just let me know somehow. Thank you. Okay, moving on then in the agenda, we have the consent calendar, items A to J. Are there any items that anybody wishes to temporarily or pull from the consent calendar prior to voting on it so we can discuss them? So hearing no response then, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'll move to approval of items A through J on the consent calendar.
Is there a second? Second. Roll call.
Councilmember Freiberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Narayan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson. Aye. Councilmember Toomey,
Aye.
Mayor Case.
Aye. Thank you. There are no public hearings this evening. Again, I think I pointed this out at the last meeting that these have been a few light meetings, but we have some development projects in the pipeline, so we have a busier schedule coming forward. So don't, Councilmember Toomey, you've been spoiled here. This is not what it's always like. So tonight's a little bit lighter meeting. So moving on, we do have payment of claims, which is the list of all the bills that were paid basically by the city, and as many, if you've read through them, they can be 10 to 15 pages long. And sometimes there's something that sticks out and you wish to question, you're welcome to do that. So are there any items within the payment of claims that anybody wishes to ask a question about? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I move the approval of payment of claim as submitted.
Is there a second? So even in non-COVID times, this is a roll call vote, but during COVID times, everything's a roll call vote if we have somebody who is virtual at home. So, roll call.
Councilmember Freiberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Narayan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson. Aye. Councilmember Toomey,
Aye.
Mayor Case.
Aye. So I mentioned that earlier this evening, I'm not sure whether all of our residents realize this, but on any normal council meeting night, we meet earlier downstairs at 5 o'clock. And we have a workshop on various topics throughout the year that we can do a little bit of a deeper dive. These meetings are open to the public, they're open to the press, they're a normal posted public meeting. So, but it's just a little bit more informal. We're downstairs, and we can't pass motions or make any final decision. It's really an educational time. So this evening, we received a report, a state of the transit agency from Len Semage and Southwest Transit. Very informative, and just talked about the difficult year with COVID, obviously running a transit agency. But also the fact that they are surviving, and with CARES Act money, they did get through the year. For those of you of our residents who utilize the bus service we have in the city, you know what an amazing amenity it is. So it's really good to hear that it's a strong agency and that it's moving forward and constantly planning and thinking about what else is out there in the future that they can be doing an even better job on, expanding Prime, expanding that first and last mile, especially if LRT comes in 3 years. How do people get to the LRT station? How do they get back home? They're just always innovating and thinking about that. So a very good report. We also spent nearly an hour with each council member sharing with each other and with staff, what is it that we want, that we'd love to see get accomplished this year? It wasn't to make a goal for staff or to give their work plan a whole lot more work. It was really to have everyone hear what is important to each of us. What are our goals and what are we passionate about this year? So the council members suggested that I just really report back on a summary, but I'm going to throw it open to them if I miss something. I'm going to really read off of my list because I think most of the things on my list were in the end on yours, but if I miss something, please feel free to just weigh in. But nearly all of us talked about the climate initiatives that the city's been involved with really for 20 years, but even more so recently. And many of us, if not all, brought up solar issues, whether it's incentivizing businesses or just incentivizing private residents. And then the concept of having our city electric fleet, which we've already set as a goal for 2030, to be aggressive about that as much as we can. We talked about affordable housing, and we did have an affordable housing task force come back and report back to the council, and there were some substantive suggestions made that we want to follow through on. We don't want to just have had that report be given and then just move on. There were some things in there we definitely want to pursue and see what we can do with bringing to fruition. Possibly in the rental area and rental, not necessarily rental protection, but possibly rental assistance. Government has a role to play, but maybe a minor role, and we're not really sure on exactly what that ends up looking like. We want to talk more about that. Talked about some sustainability issues. Most of you know that the state has mandated organic recycling for private residences in 2022. And so that's coming up fast. And so we chatted about that just a little bit. The Systemic Racism Initiative, Race Equity. We have our Human Rights and Diversity Commission right now working on interviewing. We remember, some of you may recall from looking at the paper, that we hired a consulting firm to help gather that information from across the community. They'll be reporting back to us. Hopefully some substantive suggestions will come out of that we can address and really try to make an impact and make a difference in our community, possibly in our hiring practices, possibly in some other suggestions they come up with. Talked a lot about LRT and just the fact that it's coming. It's going to be delayed. It's in 3 years, but there's still, on the part of many residents, excitement when they see all the bridges being built, and they see the excitement that we're going to be connected through public transportation with our neighboring cities. Also some unknowns, possibly some fears, possibly some confusion sometimes with, is that going to increase crime, or is that going to change the dynamics of our city? And we talked about maybe how to communicate better and maybe get some education out. And communicate also the positives and the excitement and the $7 or $8 million of economic investment that will come into the Golden Triangle area because of these transit-oriented stations. So we just had a general sense, I think, of the five of us to continue that education piece with LRT. Talked about public safety. That tied right in a little bit with LRT, but as many of you know, we have body cameras coming with police officers imminently within the next couple months. Talked about educating the public a little bit with the good, well, I don't know if that's an oxymoron, with good news about crime statistics, but we have very positive statistical data out there on our city, and we are a very safe city, and we have a tremendous good going on. That being said, with social media, any one incident sometimes becomes very magnified, and it's very frightening if people worry about a car getting hijacked. It's incredibly frightening, and we want to be proactive and on the front edge of that. We have an amazing police department. We have phenomenal leadership within the police department. Chatted briefly about the idea, we're not going to defund the police. It's possibly the opposite. Maybe we'll look at what else do they need? Do they need additional? We're going to take the leadership and guidance of our police and fire, public safety leaders here in the city, but do they need some social worker additions or something in domestic abuse? So it won't be taking money away. It would be, what else can we do to be enhancing the good work that they do? And then finally, social services. Several council members brought up that we would like to be more connected as a council to these amazing organizations that really are an extension. The city can't do, public dollars, tax dollars can't do all the things that our social services that our nonprofits do. And so they are a great advantage to us, and how can we be more facilitating the good work that they do? And one council member particularly, but we all agreed, talked about the hunger that exists in this city. And then that ties back also to other needs of housing, and that ties into affordable housing, and then transportation. That ties into LRT. So all this is working together, and I just wanted to summarize in general some of the big themes that we all talked about. Amazing consensus this evening. There was every individual council member has their take, and they had their own special desires and their passions. But this is a strong, I just want to say to the people of Eden Prairie, you elected a very strong council of very high quality individuals who are out there really working hard to make this city as good and as the best city around, and to represent all of you in the best way that they can. So I'm very proud of them. very proud about the consensus that we felt together, that I just felt that we were in tune tonight with each other. So I think that was good. Great for staff to hear our thoughts and our comments as well. So I will be quiet, and I will let any other council member that wants to weigh in or just fill in a little piece of something I may have not represented you as the way you want to be. So anybody, Councilmember Nelson, I'll start with you since you're remote.
The one other thing we talked about was what we might do with small businesses coming up with COVID.
Yes, very good. That idea of, again, being closer connected, we are closely connected to the chamber, but particularly small businesses. And pre-COVID, we had a phenomenal entrepreneurship initiative that was ready to kick off with the school district, and we had a space up at the high school. It was quite exciting. I just talked to Superintendent Josh Swanson, I don't know, a couple weeks ago. That's not gone, right? It's even backburnered's too strong. COVID has put things a little bit on hold, but it's coming back. So I agree with you, Kathy, or Councilmember Nelson, we definitely want to remain very close to our business community, especially during COVID, if there are ways that we can be incentivizing and helping them. And Kathy, I'll add to this, I'm sure you agree with it too, but our restaurants. I mean, I just think there's so many of our residents that want to make sure that our phenomenal amenities display of restaurants here in the city survive. And if there's anything that we can be doing, connecting restaurants to resources, I don't know what community ability we have or from a city perspective, but yes, excellent. Other council members?
I can only just say that was a good summary. You did a good job
Okay.
on that. I think that covered, pretty much everything we talked about on there.
Good.
There was a lot of consensus.
Others?
Yeah, Mayor, I agree with Councilmember Freiberg. Well, you did an awesome job of summarizing what we have said. One point we just want to emphasize to the residents that we are not just focusing only this, we are continue providing the best service we have been providing. So this in addition to the service we are already providing, so we are not sidetracking, we are not de-emphasizing current services. In fact, we're just focusing on that, make sure that services are running the way above expectation. And addition to that, these are some of the initiatives that we like to proceed.
That's a great catch. I mean, the city has just a phenomenal group of people working for them. I just can't even say enough good, because we hear all the time from our residents how much they appreciate the staff here at the city, the snowplow drivers, the people at the community center, the senior center when it opens back up, the park and rec people in the summer. We just have amazing staff. And Rick, would you share quickly the award that you really won, that the staff won as being the best city municipal place to work in the state of Minnesota?
Oh, I like the sound of that award.
Well, it was, wasn't it? Weren't we on the list?
Let's take, I like that. No,
The top municipal city in that list, right?
we're the only city, Mayor.
Okay,
Yes.
well then I'm right.
Yeah, no, right. No, absolutely. No, what the mayor's mentioning is our employees are anonymously surveyed in a workplace survey. It's called Top Workplaces, sponsored by the Star Tribune. And for 7 straight years, we have been a top workplace, and that's all workplaces that participate in the state of Minnesota. And they're categorized into different sized businesses based on the number of employees they have. So we're a medium-sized business. And we've consistently ranked in the top 50 in the entire state of Minnesota as a workplace for the city of Eden Prairie, as the best workplace as surveyed by our own employees.
I think that's amazing, and many of you know that I work at a company that I work in employee engagement and culture, and the power of positive employee engagement to impact the customers that you serve, it can't be underestimated. So when we have a staff of 300 FTEs and 600 or 700 when it gets seasonal in there post-COVID, that's amazing to have those people wanting to be here, wanting to work here, and enjoying working here, and then that just transfers over into the work that they do to serve our community and our customers, our residents. So Rick, this wasn't going to be necessarily a kudos to you, but it really is. You are the leader that we as a council choose to go and hire the 300 FTEs to go out and basically implement the policy of this council. So thank you for what you do, and I think you are the top city manager of the state of Minnesota, so I'll just throw that out there. But so we're happy to have you here. Okay, Councilmember Toomey.
Geez. I don't really have much to add. I agree with Councilmember Freiberg that you pretty much hit on everything that we talked about. And just to say that I'm looking forward to working with you all and the city staff towards attaining our goals and
Great.
reaching what we want.
Thank you and welcome for about the 9th time, but
Yeah.
glad to have you here as always. All right. We have one more, actually two, I suppose, but one more report out. Mr. Getchell, I'll turn it back to you, and then if you want to turn it over to Robert, you can.
Yes,
do
Mayor,
that.
thank you. I know he's setting up the presentation. Yeah, Mr. Ellis has a couple action items based on the Duck Lake Road improvements that are coming up, so I will turn it over to him.
Okay.
I'm back tonight. It's been a while. I think I actually was before the council September of 2018 asking for a layout approval. So since that meeting, this past year and a half, we've been dealing with some permitting issues. Going through the environmental regulation process, just getting our DNR permits, watershed district permits, a Corps of Engineer. And so it's kind of changed the layout a little bit, and that's why I'm back tonight with a proposed layout to discuss. And maybe just to get started, I'll take a step back and just remind you of this project and the project area we're working on. So it's Duck Lake Road from Duck Lake Trail down to Pavelka Way, which is close to where the bend is in the road before you get to the high school. So if you've driven this road, it's in pretty rough shape. It's probably one of our worst rated roads from a pavement condition standpoint. It's a minor collector street. We're not looking to change that. We're going to keep this as a one lane each direction. You have a number of residential homes. You, of course, have Duck Lake, and on both sides of the road is Duck Lake. It's not like there's a pond on one side, a lake on the other. All of it is Duck Lake. You've got Prairie View Elementary. You've got the Eden Prairie High School. We also have our community center now that we have that connection across the railroad for the trail, the pedestrian and bikes, better access to our community center, Round Lake Park, in fact. We've also got Prairie View Park, which is right behind Prairie View Elementary. And then, of course, we've got a railroad that's kind of going through this area. So those are some of the issues that we had to work through, some of the considerations we had as we worked through the design. And if you were to go out there today, this is what the road looks like, at least across the lake. And that's really what I want to focus on tonight, because that's the part of the project that has changed, is how we cross Duck Lake. So if you're out there today, this has just been an earthen berm that was placed decades ago and then was paved over. And there's a small little, maybe 12-inch metal pipe that connects both sides of the lake. So the roads, the pavement's in terrible condition, needs to be replaced, and we want to do this very thoughtfully. We're next to high schools, community center, elementary schools, parks. We want to make sure we're taking into consideration the pedestrian needs and the bicyclist needs. And in fact, I mean, over the years, those are the emails that have gone to the city council, the all council emails, is when is the city going to make some pedestrian improvements along here? So we wanted to make sure that that was incorporated into the design. So the layout, the new proposed layout, I've broken this up into 3 sections, and we're going to start down by Pavelka and where that high school crossing is, and we'll work north. So if you look at this graphic here, really nothing has changed as far as the layout is considered from our September 2018 presentation. The only thing that's new is now there is that railroad crossing for the high school. But there were pedestrian facilities, a trail on the west side, a sidewalk on the east side. We're always part of this project. As I move up the corridor, this is where things are changing. So we get past Prairie View Elementary, now we're in Duck Lake. And what we're proposing today is a bridge. Rather than have an earthen berm that we would expand, put more soil in the water to support trails and sidewalks, curb and gutter, storm drainage system, we're now proposing a bridge. And there's a number of reasons why. That this is becoming the preferred alternative, and quite frankly, the only alternative that will make it through the environmental permitting process. So we're here tonight to talk a little bit about that bridge. I've got some slides that I'll show just here in a couple of seconds. The other thing I want to highlight is the previous proposed layout. Always had the trail on the west side, so the Prairie View Elementary side. What we're adding now is the sidewalk. We were originally proposing to defer that sidewalk that was essentially from South Shore Lane at this location all the way along the lake crossing and then over to the next intersection. We're now going to include that in the project. And quite frankly, the reason for that is we received a petition from the neighborhood who said, we want the trail and the sidewalk included in the project. So the neighborhood really demanded that be included, and that was after the layout was approved before. So this was the time to do it. We're building a bridge. You really can't come back and add to the bridge later, at least not very affordably. So we're adding that to the project now. So it'll have full pedestrian trail facilities from the north end to the south end on both sides. And I think that's a good decision because of all the neighborhood, school amenities that we have. And then the last section I've got here just goes from Duck Lake all the way up to, from the lake itself all the way up to Duck Lake Trail. And again, not much is really changing on that section. So really what I'm here tonight to talk about is just to get the approval for the addition of the bridge. And this is what the bridge would look like. This is just a rendering as you're looking towards the east across the bridge. Again, right now it's an earthen berm, no pedestrian facilities. So it'll be a nice bridge, one lane each direction. And then also, if you've been out there on a summer afternoon, you oftentimes find a couple kids sitting on the side of the shoulder fishing. It's a very popular location for neighborhood kids to fish. Through this design process, we thought it would be nice to have some type of a fishing pier or an area carved out for people to recreate on the lake. So that will be included, and you kind of see there's a City of Eden Prairie logo and the Watershed District, and that's because the Watershed District has graciously agreed to provide $1.175 million towards this improvement of the roadway, and that's the second item that you'll act on after I'm finished with the presentation. So it'll be a nice amenity for the lake users. This is just a typical section of what the bridge section would look like. So you can see the fishing pier over here. You've got a trail for pedestrians. You've got a little bit of a barrier here. You've got one lane each direction, curb and gutter so that we can manage the stormwater. And then you have a multi-use trail over here with safety railing. So not an overbuilt design, and it seems to accommodate all the different uses. Benefits of this new proposed layout, there's a number of them here. Most of them are related to protecting, preserving the environment. The first one addresses the neighborhood petition for the walking path on both sides of the road, recreational fishing pier. Now some of the environmental improvements here. It reconnects the lake, and it eliminates that fragmentation of the habitat. When you had the earthen berm, you've really separated the two habitats. With the bridge, open water, plants, animals can move freely underneath the bridge. It's restoring the lake bed, so about 4/10 of an acre of the lake bed is being restored to its full depth. It's removing total suspended solids, total phosphorus loading in the lake. It's going to reduce wetland fill by about 6,500 square feet. It'll also reduce that wetland bounce, which negatively impacts wetlands. When water comes in after rain, because it's just being forced in there and then it drains out quickly, that bouncing of the wetland causes a lot of negative harm. So by reducing that berm, that bounce will go away. We also have flood storage capacity being increased by 0.33 acre feet. This is an area that routinely has flooding issues, specifically on the west side of the lake, so that will help improve that for some of those properties that see that occasional flooding in their backyard, sometimes into their basement, and that was something that I think that they're going to be very gracious to see that was included into the project, because that was something we were struggling with, is how do we manage that or improve that flooding situation, so this will help.
Do we get any, or does the Watershed District get any wetland mitigation credit? I mean, we always get slammed when we fill something and we have to mitigate it 2-to-1. Now we're getting it back. Are we getting some kind of credit for that?
Well, we don't, unfortunately, we don't get any credit for that.
Okay. That's not fair.
I would agree.
Okay.
This will also reduce the 100-year flood elevation, so it's actually dropping that 100-year flood profile down by 0.4 of a foot on the west side of the lake, so another benefit to the properties over there. And it satisfies really the important thing, all the environmental permitting requirements that we had to fulfill to get this project to a point of construction. And the last thing I'll mention is just the Watershed District has agreed to participate up to $1.175 million towards these improvements because they see the value of that as well. Just a basic timeline here. We're going to next work on finalizing any easements. We'll do that here this winter, hoping to award a contract in the summer. We'll start seeing construction this year into 2022, and then substantial completion by early winter of 2022. So I believe that is all that I have to present tonight. I will just again mention, so the next two items, one is to approve this new revised layout, and then two, approve the agreement with the watershed district for that financial participation.
So I can have council question on both, and then we can just vote back to back once we get conversation out of the way. So council, any questions or comments? And Councilmember Nelson, I'm looking at you as well. Councilmember Narayan.
Yes, Robert, thank you for the explanation. I have two questions. One is that how much space will have between the bridge and the water? Is a boat can go underneath? Second question, I'll give you two questions. Second question is, I assume the answer is yes, that in terms of wheelchair able to get from the sidewalk to the bridge and come back, and
Yep.
wheelchair access in general.
Yeah, absolutely. Councilmember Narayan, so the ADA through the entire corridor will be met, and specifically, certainly, we will do that at the pier so that all people can take advantage of that new amenity. So that will be addressed up and down the corridor. As for being able to navigate in a boat or a kayak back and forth, it may be challenging. That we wanted to keep the profile of the bridge down, but we need to keep it out of the water. But if we get too high, then you start affecting views, and neighborhood starts to see this more as a detraction to the lake than an addition to it. So I would say maybe times of the year, certain experienced boaters might be able to traverse beneath it, but it certainly isn't being designed to easily accommodate that.
Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Then let's do two different people, two different motions. We just won't have any discussion in between them. So is there someone that would make the first motion to approve the revised layout?
I move to approve the revised layout of dated January 28, 2021 for the Duck Lake Road Improvement City Project number 1.C.17-5983.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Any more discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Freiberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Narayan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Councilmember Toomey,
Aye.
Mayor Case.
Aye. So now let's make a motion on this same project, but to partner with the Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District for the reconstruction project. Councilmember Toomey.
I will make motion to approve the cooperative agreement between the City of Eden Prairie and Riley Purgatory Bluff Creek Watershed District for the Duck Lake Road Reconstruction Project.
Is there a second? Councilmember Nelson seconded. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Freiberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Narayan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Councilmember Toomey,
Aye.
Mayor Case.
Aye. Mr. Getchell and/or council members, is there anything else to come before the council this evening? Okay, I just want to thank Pastor Rhines for being our representative of the community in the audience this evening. We sometimes, outside of COVID, we'll have quite a large gathering, but we appreciate you coming out tonight. So with that, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
I move to adjourn the city council meeting.
Is there a second? Okay, seconded by Councilmember Nelson. Any more discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Freiberg,
Aye.
Councilmember Narayan,
Aye.
Councilmember Nelson,
Aye.
Councilmember Toomey,
Aye.
Mayor Case.
Aye. This meeting is adjourned.